actually meeting these people along the way made me realize what true friends are. That's the joy of having a chronic illness, is your relationships are extremely real because you have to be so honest. Welcome to the Slut Drops Hurt podcast with me, Maisie.
And me, Beth. We are two fibro warriors intent on sharing perspectives and stories with the chronic illness community.
Expect real talk with a dash of humour thrown in as me and my favourite fibro friend tackle a range of topics.
Slut Drops Hurt. Yes, a rather cheeky name. It comes from our common realisation that as two divas with chronic illness, slut dropping in the club is way more challenging for us, as are many more things in life.
We hope by sharing our experiences with some of you, we can contribute positively to our Spoonie community.
This week we're discussing friendships and cancellation policy. This is part 1 of 2.
So today's episode is called Cancellation Policy. And the idea behind this came after watching many episodes of The Big Bang Theory. And you know how, if you're familiar with the Big Bang Theory, you'll know that Sheldon has agreements for a roommate agreement, relationship agreement, all of these silly things that outline stupid rules in friendship and everything. And whilst it sounds silly, I was thinking as someone with a chronic illness, I feel obliged to let my friends know that there is a cancellation policy with being friends with me. I could cancel on you last minute and I need you to be okay with that. So this episode is all about talking about cancelling on friends and trying to balance a social life with a chronic illness.
I'd never thought about the Big Bang Theory like that, but that makes so much sense. And actually looking at it in the way of Sheldon lives his life, Sheldon lives his life on his terms because he needs to. Like, yeah,
this is it.
So like, why would we not have a cancellation policy? It is. I live my life like that.
Well, this is it. Because when I was watching, because I watched it years ago when it was first sort of coming out, and it was still, you know, you were waiting for the next season. Obviously now it's done and dusted and it's old. But I binged through it over Christmas, and I was sat there laughing at, you know, good old Sheldon being Sheldon, just being socially awkward, socially anxious, getting upset when things didn't go his way. And then the more I sat there and thought about his character, and I thought about the way he lives his life, the more I thought, you know what, I see a lot of similarities in the way he lives his life and the way I need to live mine.
Yeah.
Because I get upset when plans get changed last minute. I get upset with my friends when they, I don't know, get upset with me for something I had no control over, or I had no control over the response I had to it, sort of thing. Like, especially with things like brain frog. There it is. Brain fog. But like when I'm talking to people, sometimes what I'm saying doesn't come across the way I need it to, and I end up hurting someone's feelings or saying something that sounds a lot harsher out loud than I thought it did in my head, kind of thing. And it's something that is a little bit out of my control, because when you're fogging, you can't tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah,
you just kind of say what comes to mind, right?
You lose your filter sometimes.
Definitely. You lose that filter, especially when you're fed up with your flair and you're in a fog. It's just difficult. Yes. But yeah, so I just kind of, on reflection of binging the Big Bang Theory, I thought, you know what, like a roommate agreement and a relationship agreement, they don't sound that crazy to me anymore, because being in a relationship and living with somebody, there are certain agreements we have because I am ill and I need to live my life a certain way. And when somebody breaks the agreement, I get mad, I get upset, I throw a strop or a hissy fit or a tantrum, you know, like. So yeah, I just thought cancellation policy is part of the friendship agreement.
It makes so much sense. It's interesting, like you say that's the way it works for you, because it's similar for me, I think. And I never had thought about it until you said that. Because like there are things in my life that I need people to understand, and if they don't, they kind of just stop being a part of my life naturally. But I've had friends just drop off. Like, it naturally just happens. Like, I've had to accept it. Like, you know.
Yeah, it is a natural part of life anyway, is that people grow apart. But I do find, especially making friends now that I'm not studying, it is a lot harder to make friends anyway, because the only friends you sort of make now are one night friends that you met in the pub and people you work with. So either they know nothing about you at all and it's very freeing, or they know pretty much everything about you and they need to understand that certain things don't work the same for an able-bodied person.
I don't know about
like,
you as well.
I can't go for a drink every Friday and I can't go for a drink every Saturday. I can only drink on a certain number of days a week kind of thing. And friends need to understand that.
Definitely. And I that's what I find hard with work colleagues, because I also find it hard that I've asked for adjustments in a space, and if I go out drinking with you, are you going to take those adjustments seriously if you see me enjoying myself? Because you won't see the work that goes behind that.
Yeah, you won't see how many days I've been resting and taking it easy this week to be able to afford this, and how many days I'm going to suffer for this after.
Yeah.
Will
you take me seriously? Yeah. This is it.
So yeah, I've never really fit work colleagues into my sort of cancellation policy so much. But it's very much a policy for people that I'm closest with.
Yeah.
It's just sort of in everyday life, people that I message and FaceTime and stuff. And like all of my closest friends completely understand that if I don't message you back, it's nothing personal. I just don't have it in me right now. Yeah. And if I don't answer the phone, it's because I'm using all my spoons to cook dinner. Sorry, you're going to have to wait for now.
Yep, definitely. Like, and I think it's interesting. Like, I find it's a good test. Not that I'm testing people. It's a natural test of friendship.
It is.
Like,
do you know, they say this about people that have babies as well. You find out who your true friends are when you have a baby and stuff, because people naturally drop off like that. And I think that this is a universal thing, that people do drop off when a person goes through a big change or a huge experience.
Definitely.
So and I think it's the same for chronic illness. Like, I've had lots of friends drop off in the past year, and I've also cut lots of friends out in the past year, you know, because it's not been an adaptable change. They haven't been able to grow with me, and that's not on them, you know, it's just that my journey is a completely different journey now. So and nobody has to come on this journey with me, but just know that if you do, you are subject to the cancellation policy.
Yeah, it's part of my life. You've got to deal with it. Like,
yeah, it's also, I should just clarify that cancellation policy doesn't mean that I'm cutting you out of my life. It just means that I'm going to cancel on you last minute. I just realised I need to actually clarify.
It doesn't mean cancelling friends.
No.
It's not like that. It's if I cancel plans on you.
Yes.
And me and you both have it, like, in our life. We obviously are in the same circle of friends anyway, and I feel like a lot of them get it.
Yes, and they are the best allies in the world. They really
100%.
are.
100%. Actually, meeting these people along the way made me realise what true friends are. That's the joy of having a chronic illness, is your relationships are extremely real, because you have to be so honest.
Yes, they are. Do you know what? This is something I've written about before, is how grateful I am for the relationships I have now. And it's because of fibro that I've been able to be so grateful for them, because I don't have any negative relationships in my life now, because I managed to slowly, one by one, realize what relationships were causing me and my illness to get so much worse. Because whilst it's always meant with good intentions, when you're friends with somebody and they're trying to help you through this change, but it's especially difficult for your friendship to last through that. And I had a friend who had all of the best intentions, really wanted to help, but in the end it was this feeling of smothering, because they didn't understand that what I was asking for is what I needed. It wasn't me just saying, no, I'm fine, I don't need any help, and then me actually secretly dying inside. But they assumed it was. I was being honest, and this person was not accepting the face value of what I was saying. So our friendship just didn't survive that, unfortunately. But now, for the friendships that did make it through that very rocky period of my life, I'm like, oh, I could not live without you. I love you so much.
Yeah. And it's a good test of what I call allyship. So like what you just described, which is someone that accepts that you will put into your own words what you need, and what you needed yesterday is not what you need today. And that's the nature of illness in general. You know, so like if you're trying to, it's almost like, unfortunately, there are people with the best intentions, people, when you get sick, they baby you.
Yes.
And it's the people that don't baby you will learn not to do that and actually learn what you need and the way you want to live your life and ask the questions, what can I do for you? Rather than saying, oh, I think I should do this for you, or I think I should do that for you.
No assumptions made.
Yeah. It's the people that don't make assumptions or make assumptions of learning about it with you so much and learning your routine of it or your way of it, you know, that makes relationships work. And unfortunately, people that can't quite meld to that, I will only teach you so much, right? I will only put up with so much. If you're really not going to fit into this life, unfortunately, I can be that person that goes, okay, we're just not going to be close. And it's not a heartless thing. It's also a protective thing. I can't give my energy to that. I have limited energy.
This is it. And also, you've got to think of it as you're helping them as much as you're helping your own health, because I especially on reflection now after cutting this person out, I think, my God, the relief they must have now, because I can look back on our conversations and I was a bit of a terror, but in my circumstance and the way my illness was affecting me, I was very much to the point, to the fact, didn't want to talk 24 hours a day, told this person that, told them exactly how I was feeling, what I needed that day. But this friend obviously was so caring and was so sympathetic and wanted to baby me and look after me, which is so lovely, but it was what I was asking them not to do. But now I look back at these conversations that we had and I think they must be so relieved now because I'm not on their plate anymore. You know, because they did that to themselves. They decided, or well, they were wired in a way that makes them want to baby people that are ill. And it takes a lot of time and stress for them. And now they don't have me anymore. So they must have so much more time in their day to do other things and have other relationships now.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I've been doing this for a while. I say that nearly every podcast, but I feel like it's just, we talk from two different stages of living with chronic illness. I have got to the point now where I can be extremely harsh with people. I mean, people find that harshness a bit difficult, but I just can't let people baby me. Like, I can't do it. I've had friends that have told me, oh, Maisie, have you eaten today? Maisie, have you done this today? Like, I had a few friends at uni that would do that. Well, you're pushing yourself too far. And I got to the point where I was like, you don't bloody get to tell me when I push myself too far. That is my right as a person. As a human. As a human. Just because I am disabled does not bloody mean you can tell me what to do. Because it's my choice if I push myself too much because I still want to live my life. That's me.
Yeah, I'm not incapable. Yeah. I can make these decisions still. I'm still of a sound mind.
Yeah, and it's like, if I don't push myself too far and have some life experiences, I'm going to be miserable and I'm compromising my mental health. Only I can make that decision of what I want to and what I don't want to do. You know,
100%.
Stop treating me like, then your relationship, when people treat you like that, becomes like a teenager relationship. Because it's like, they're like your mum. And you're like a teenager and you're like, no, I want to do it my way. Like, it's just toxic without them meaning it.
No, but this is the thing with these sorts of friendships as well, especially when it's a change that you're both going through. It's so quick to become toxic. It is within a blink of an eye. You don't even see it happening. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you just hate this human being.
Yeah.
And it's out of nowhere. You have this rage at this person because they've treated you in the exact opposite way that you asked for or needed or wanted.
Because it's not empowering.
No, but this is it. So a big part of what I wanted to talk about with this one is this podcast is basically about how to make nights out and time with people that are chronically ill. And you can, if you're chronically ill and you have lots of able-bodied friends, ask them to listen to this one if you're struggling to ask for help from them. Because
we're going
to run, and we're just going to run through some ways that our friends have been good and bad friends of chronic illness and things they've learned and basically how to be a good spoon ally.
I'd say for every toxic, I'd say I've had some toxic experiences, but most of all, I've had some really rewarding and wonderful ones.
And I've what had I just described, bad.
What we just described as what's not helpful. try, like, the advice is to, you know, try not to be like that. If you're an ally listening to this, try not to be like that. We always understand it comes from our difficult place, but there will be a point where someone might want to cut you out of your life, and you have to ask yourself the difficult question, which is always difficult for people when being questioned on, are you an ally to some cause or in an equal group? Are you benefiting that group with what's built into you morally? And are you questioning it? So yeah, that's what I wanted to say before I rounded that off. Like, I don't think all people are terrible. Like, and I don't think, but it's a relationship you work at, and if you're recognizing it doesn't benefit you, well, it's okay to cut that off, like you said.
It is.
But yeah,
I think everyone deserves a fair chance as well. So, like, again, the same example, but with this friend, I told them twice what I needed, wanted, expected. I gave them a few chances to correct themselves, and there's only so much patience, and God, there's just only so much you can take. I think if you have a friend that you're struggling to get what you need from them, make sure you're sitting down with them and really, really laying it out, basic, paper thin bullet points of what you need from them as a friend. And then if they can't live to what you need, then do yourself and do them a favor and just drift.
Like, I'm talking about people I naturally drifted from, and just naturally it fell, and that'll happen. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, it's not. But they got to get the cancellation policy. That's the main red flag. If they don't get that, then you've got your work cut out at making that friendship work.
Yes, that is the biggest red flag with friendships, is that if you cancel on them and they throw a strop, they're not going to be able to be your friend for long. That's
why I sound so bad, but I'm quite harsh. I'll just be like, bye.
No, I'm the same now. I just don't have the patience for it, like, at all. At first, I was like trying really hard to accommodate people in my life, to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's really not you, and trying to like cancel really, really nicely, and laying it on really thick about how ill I was, because I was like, oh, if I just tell them that I'm like being sick, then they won't want to see me because they don't want to catch a bug. That was a big thing I did when I first started feeling this way.
I used to lie.
Was telling people I had a bug of some kind that they could catch, and I didn't want them to get it.
Yeah, I used to lie.
But now I don't have that. Yeah, now I don't have that fear. I'm just like, I can't be asked.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good you've got to that point where it's like, nah.
Yeah, I'm not sugarcoating this anymore because it takes so much energy to sugarcoat. Like, just deal with the fact that I'm chronically ill. Just deal with it. Like, and if you can't, bye-bye. There's the door. Have a nice life. Wish you the best for you.
Yeah, and the positive thing, which I know that you're probably going to go into talk about now, is the friendships that have survived the cancellation policy, if you like, and hit it and accept it and are wonderful. And and the types of relationships you get with them. And we were going to meet up with them after recording this via Zoom, because it is a pandemic. But
the same way this looks now is how it will look in a few minutes with more people.
And lots more rum.
Lots more. Yeah, I think the biggest way to make relationships and great friendships survive is a lot of compromise as well on both ends.
Yeah.
Because whilst you should be able to cancel on them last minute as much as you need and want, you should also respect them and what they want to do when they see you. So, for example, with one of our closest friends, if she wanted to go out clubbing one Saturday and I bailed on her because I just couldn't handle it, I would offer to do that the following weekend, even if it wasn't something I necessarily wanted. If I physically feel up for it, I'm going to do it, because that friend means a lot to me, and they were so good about me cancelling, to the point that they offered to bring me something if I needed it, bring me anything I need, even if I just want to FaceTime instead. You know, like the compromise is just so strong on their part that it's the least I could do to try and make it up to them.
Yeah, and I would say that with the friends we're talking about in question, like, they are always so willing to make that compromise. Like, it's like become a natural thing in our relationship, because I think they get as well, it's like we are compromising constantly in life about what we can and can't do with our own selves. It's frustrating. So as much as it can be frustrating for them, and you have to accept that it will be frustrating for your friends, especially in the beginning as they start to know you, or I'm lucky, like a lot of my friends now are people that have known me since I've been sick, because I got sick at such a young age. So those barriers have always been there. But I can imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to make assumptions, but I can imagine that that's really important to you with your friendships coming into this, that they learn about dealing with their own frustrations and the frustrations you're going through. And I get what I'm trying to say.
Lucky. Yeah, I definitely get you. I am very lucky in a sense that, as listeners know, our friendship group is quite tight, and we are a lot of mutual friends. So I'm very lucky in the sense that they were already very educated about you and the way your fibro affects you. The difficult part on my end was them learning what it meant for me personally, and them getting used to the fact that when we go for nights out, they're not just meeting one person's needs anymore, they're meeting two.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that must be so stressful and take so much toll on somebody able-bodied, because if they went out sort of without us, could you imagine how free-flowing, go with the vibe, go where the wind changes, that kind of night would be for them?
I get you.
But it's so wonderful that they've spent so much time getting to know me and me as an ill person, because they knew me able-bodied. They knew me way before before any symptoms showed. So it's just really lovely that they had so much patience with it, and they wanted to know as much as possible that what would help them be a good friend to me personally. They didn't try and blanket fibro as this one condition. It does one thing universally. They really took the time to talk to me and to take me out one-on-one to see how I am interacting out and about, and making sure I was comfortable when doing it. There was so much effort and just care that went into figuring me out, and it helped me figure myself out as well. That was a big part of it, was they were learning with me, we were learning together, and they were there to pick me up if my legs went numb, or if I drank a bit too much and my cognitive function went a bit funny and all of a sudden I can't remember how to walk.
So there's a few things I picked up on in that were interesting to me. One, that they would have to, because obviously, like you said, you have a lot of mutual friends, they would have to get used to what fibro meant for you as what it means for me, because if they look at me, I'm someone that's had fibro through my experiences of going clubbing, of going out, of knowing when to say yes, I've had all those fails happen throughout my university time.
Yeah, and they've known you always as Maisie with fibro.
Yeah, exactly. I had to figure it out, and actually, weirdly enough, a lot of the friends that I had at the beginning of uni, we haven't really stayed friends. Maybe they didn't pass the test of what it's like to have someone suddenly go, nah, I can't go any further than the first pub. So I'd learned that. I
don't miss pub crawls at uni. They were such hard work.
Brutal. Absolutely bloody brutal. I'd have to be smashed to get through it, and then be in a lot of pain for the next 5 days. But I hadn't quite considered that, because I think our experiences might be slightly different here, because when I first had fibro, I was a teen. So I had all the experiences of going out and making adult friends with this thing. So it's interesting, because you're on a very different path, and you will have a very different experience to me. And also, our fibro is different in general. Not every disabled person's experience is the same, even though we have the same condition.
This is what I mean, though. I think that's what I am sort of making a slight assumption here, but I do have to assume that that's what's been difficult for our mutual friends, is not just accepting fibro as a chronic illness and something your friend lives with, but dealing with the fact that this same illness has two completely different effects on two of your closest friends, and then having to deal with each condition when we're all together, I'm not having to deal with it, but making sure that you're not, to make sure you're not assuming that one person is fine because the other person's fine, taking that care.
It's a condition that fluctuates so much. So, for example, to put it into words a bit more what we're talking about. So, for example, you just said, assume that one person is fine when the other person's fine, but no one knows what our weeks have been like leading up to that point. And we all know fibro and chronic illnesses are very dependent on how you pace and what's gone on in your life. We both might have done different errands, we have different jobs. You might have had a busier week at work than I'd had, you know, so I could be feeling like I could do a walk to the next pub, but you might not. And vice versa, depending, and it can be different at each time. I think our friends have really learned to get that.
Yeah, I think they have, and I think that's so important, and I'm so grateful for it. I really am, because like we were sort of saying earlier, it builds such an honest relationship, because how else are they going to know, you know, because they're not mind readers. And the fact that they accept us, and the fact that they accept us as people with the same condition that affects them totally differently, and they're willing to roll with the punches on both ends, is just amazing. Like the patience they have.
And it's good patience. Like it's patience that you'd expect any human being to give a human being. And I find that actually they've adapted to it fairly quickly, because you got diagnosed just before lockdown. And then, so we had that night out last February, I think. Yeah. When you were not quite there diagnosed. But and
I know the one.
Yeah. And, you know, certain members of our friendship group survived that very well, and others were really tested, but they seem to have worked it out. Like, so, yeah.
No, this is it. And I just, it's weird, because after the diagnosis, obviously, some of the first people I really spoke to and sort of let myself feel it with were you and a couple of our friends. You were sort of like, I had the diagnosis, and I spoke to my parents and spoke to my granddad and Alex, my boyfriend. I haven't spoken about him yet. And you know, like I kind of blanket surface kind of spoke about it. I was like, oh yeah, it's not unexpected, it's fine. But the first people I really let it out with are you and our closest friends, because I was just like, they have been here quite literally every step of the way. They've been here for every mood swing. They've been here for every night out that for some reason or another I've not been able to make it to the next place. They have brought me food, they have brought me coffee, they have come to see me at work during my lunch break just to cheer me up, you know, like they were the people that were just really there for me, and not in a pitying, oh, poor Beth, she can't look after herself kind of way. Do you know what? Beth's having a rough go of it at the moment. I'm going to bring her a coffee to cheer her up. Yeah. That kind of friendship, you know? And it was just instant trust. Like I knew I wouldn't have to explain how I was feeling when I got the diagnosis, because it was just so natural. I remember speaking to one of them, and I was just like, I just feel really numb about it at the moment. And she was just like, that's understandable. Do you want to talk about something else in the meantime? And I was like, yeah. And we started talking about something else. And then all of a sudden I just burst into tears. And she was like, you want to talk about it now? And I was like, yeah.
That's the perfect side of a friend. Like, it's a nice, I hope people listening to this understand that you can have these positive friendships where people can do that for you, because it's so nice that someone in that situation was able to say, okay, we're not ready to talk about it, or we might not be ready today or tomorrow, or it might be in a few minutes, who knows? But I'm going to talk to them about something else, because they're more than this label they've just been given. And some people can't always get past that label. They can't get to the point of, do you want to talk to something about something else?
Thanks for listening to the Slut Drops Hurt podcast.
Part 2 of the episode is available now on YouTube and your podcast streaming service.
Connect with us for news on our latest podcast projects and much more. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok under the name Slut Drops Hurt.
For now, we are sending gentle hugs and wishing you all the spoons you need.